Welcome CSE 235 to part 7 of our ex12 RPS rock paper scissors, and hopefully this will be the last video. We'll try to wrap up our points and try to wrap up all our messages and resets and all that we have to do here. One thing I just want to point out that I forgot to mention on the previous video for basically when we were setting up our global variables, I made a point to say that global variables, if they're not defined here and they're defined inside a function, they wouldn't be available. And I was messing around with this ahead of time, and when I did mine, when I worked on mine, let me just show you here, I had an error because I couldn't get to this random number. It wasn't allowing me to do this. So then what I ended up doing was declaring a global variable for random number and then taking out the var equals here, or just the var here. And I left it with the var here and it still worked. And what happens is, let me just show you something. If you have var here, because I had taken it out, and you may still have it here because you would have no reason to take the var out. If you declare this variable here, and I'll save this, and I'll go back to my, and now I have done other things, so we'll just, hopefully I didn't mess anything up. But if I went here and I'll just start it out, and I submit name, and I start doing this, I'm not getting any of these things showing up here. Right now I'm not getting any of these things that I just did showing up. And let me go and check out my inspect and see if I have any errors. And it turns out I have a whole bunch of errors. And one of the errors that I'm seeing here is random number is not defined. And what actually, and you may be getting that too, and you'll be going crazy figuring, thinking what happened. And in all these places it said random number is not defined. And you might be watching and thinking, well, he didn't do anything different. And the thing is, I did do something different, because when I was messing around with this, I took this out. And all that you have to do, you don't even, if it's just a weird thing with global and local variables. If you have this in a function, it's local, and then it won't be if you define it here or declare this variable here, it won't be available for anything else, and you'll get an error, just like I did. But if you just happen to take this out, it assumes that it's global, and then everything will work. So if I save this, I could go here and reset this and just start playing the game, and everything will work, all the points will work. So you're going to go crazy thinking that, so I'll try to point that out before you get to it. So what you could do two things. You could declare the variable and just put my ranNum with a semicolon here. You could just do that. You could just do this so that it's a global variable. You could put it right up here and just put var ranNum and a semicolon. That would take care of it. You would no longer have any errors. That would do the same thing here as this. But because if you have a var here, either way you want to get rid of the var here. So whether you get rid of the var here and declare the var up here, or if you just get rid of the var here, if you get rid of the var, it'll assume it's global anyway and it'll be available. So even if I save this, it'll still work. So you don't even have to declare the global one. It'll assume it's global if you take away the var. So if I reset this and I start playing, it's going to work. So I just want to point that out, because you're not going to know what's going on. So I just want to point that out first, and then we'll move on to the next part, and I'll try to put that in instructions and try to alert you to that before you get to that. Now what I did here is, after doing the show rock, everything worked. I copied and pasted all this information to showPaper and to showScissors, and what I changed is the my paper I said is true, the my paper equals true, and then I went from the winner to the loser to the stalemate. So if it's paper, the winner is going to be paper, the loser is going to have to be rock, because paper covers rock, so that's why that's going to be 0. And then for this part, when it's the loser, when I lose, if I'm paper and wait a minute, I got to change this too. I forgot to change this already. These should be I don't think I changed these in any of these. So this should, my paper, when my paper is true, random number is 2, that means 0, 1, 2, that's scissors. So my paper loses to scissors. And notice this way it always says your name here. So I just replaced this information. It was just easier because I could always keep my name in the winner part, because that's the way it's set up, so that you win first and then the computer wins. So paper cover rocks, and then scissors cuts paper, and that's the way the paper one works. And everything else should be the same. The stalemate will be the same. So that's the only thing that changes there. And then moving on to my scissors, or to showScissors, my scissors equals true, my scissors true, and this should also be my scissors, so I should make sure I change this. Make sure you spell it right. That should be my scissors. And again, you're saying my scissors is true, and then the condition for both of these is if my scissors equals true. And this one, scissors wins when it's up against paper. Or is that the one I just showed? Yeah, scissors wins when it's up against paper. So that would be 1 is paper, so scissors beats paper. And then when it loses to rock. Rock is 0, so that goes a 1, 0. So the other one should be 0, 0, 2, I guess. So 0, 2, 1, 2. So paper loses to scissors, and it wins against rock. So you'll figure that out if you ever played rocks, paper, scissors. So that's all you should have to do with those. So those should be fairly easy to kind of just fix. We just copied and pasted those. So, and then it's just changing the messages so that you know, whatever one wins, it says rock crushes scissors. So that's set up. So that's the way we have it so far. So everything should be working so far. And I'll just double check. I'll just reset this and put in my name and do all that. And that works. And if I choose rock, there's a stalemate. Rock gets beat by scissors, so computer. Now I'll choose paper. Paper covers rock. It's even. I'll choose scissors. Scissors gets crushed by rock, so computer gets 2. Computer wins. So all those things are working out. Reset's working. Now we're going to have to disable these buttons, and we have to get to 2 wins. So how do we get to 2 wins? Well, we're going to write a function, and then we're just going to stick the function into all the other functions, just like we did before. So I think I'm going to do it before the reset function, because reset should be the last function. So I'm going to make a function here, and we'll call it check points, because what it's going to do is check the points. And it's going to be an if statement. It's really an if-else, but we're just going to do 2 ifs. And what our condition is going to be is we're going to put if, and the condition is going to be if we're going to have a condition if we win. So if my points is equal or greater than, we could say greater than or equal to 2. If my points is greater than or equal to 2, then here's the statement that happens. What happens if my points are greater than 2? Well, then a couple things can happen. This thing, winner, is going to say, and actually I should take this winner one. I should take the winner because my name's in it, because this is the one I'm winning. So what happens is I'll put this in here, and I'll say, I'll actually start it here. And that way it'll say, you wins. You know, and then if you want, wait, I gotta fix this here. There's a quote. I could start this with just 2 quotes like that, and then that'll actually work. You could just put, you know, it'll be Rich wins, and if you want, you could put 2 out of 3. So that would be what happens. So that would happen. Now, what else would happen? Well, we have that display there under winner, so it doesn't say who wins that last match. It just says that's the kind of the final winner. And you could have another display somewhere else that displays that, but we're just going to put it under winner. So that looks okay. Let's just check our quotes. There's double quotes here, double quotes here. That's all our string stuff, and this is our variable in here. And then I'm going to copy another one and just put another if in here. We'll just have 2 ifs, and this is if comp points is greater than, and this is if the computer wins. And then we could just say computer wins 2 out of 3, and that's it. So those are just our messages that kind of show up. So we just had to do some things here with the variable. This one doesn't have a variable that's concatenated. This one does. So we're just starting it off with a double quote with nothing in it. Then we're showing the variable, and then we're just saying wins 2 out of 3. So computer wins 2 out of 3. So that's okay. So we have other things to put in there. What else is going to happen? When the game is over, if all these things are over, we're also going to disable. Now, whether it's this one or that one, it doesn't matter. Once it, well, actually it does. What we're going to do in here is we're going to disable the buttons. Once one of these persons, and I guess we should put it for both. So once one of these person wins, we're going to put it in here, and we're going to see if we could find the buttons. Here's buttons down here. So I'll just copy these because these are kind of shortcut. Even though these aren't the statements that we want, I'll just copy these. And I'm going to put this in here. So this is going to be something else that happens if I get to there. So submit button on click. I could probably put it at the end, but I'm going to put it in here just to be safe. We could always experiment later. But what's going to happen, this isn't going to be on click. This is going to be basically think it's disabled. I think it's called disabled. I think it's a state of a button. Yeah, and it's showing up in yellow here, so that should be okay. I think it's called disabled. And I'll paste these for all of these. And what I'll do is we'll just say true. That means it's going to be true. So disabled equals true. So let's disable these buttons. I don't think there is an enabled. I think it's just disabled. So we'll disable these buttons. So these buttons, submit button, actually it wouldn't be submit, it'd be rock, paper. Let me cut this. I'll keep it in order, but this will be the scissors button. Disabled. So they're all going to be disabled, even though the submit could be disabled, but the rock is going to be submitted, rock button, paper. So those three buttons will be disabled equals true. And then we can copy and paste this same stuff because even after the other one. Now, it's possible we could put it after, before the closing bracket here, but I'm just going to put them in here for now. So that's something that's going to happen. So that's going to happen. We're going to disable all the buttons after that. And then the only thing we should have to do is more reset stuff. When we reset, because when we reset, we're going to have to make the buttons, we have to add a whole bunch of things to the buttons, because when we reset, we want to start over a bunch of things. Now, I already put two things in here. Just take note, because I didn't do this in a previous video. I already did this. I put my title inner HTML equals human. That resets the name back to human. And I also put the value of your name, the original value that we had kind of that was set to empty, we're actually putting it back to empty again, because otherwise there's still going to be a name in there. So these two things I did not do in a previous video, so make sure you add these in to reset those. That's the title, it sets it back to human, and it sets that field back to blank. That's what those do, and you'll be able to find them higher up in that first submit button function is where you're gonna find that submit name function. You'll find these things in there. So what I'll also put in there when I reset is, I guess I can put these in. I'll reset these and I'll make these false so that they're not disabled. So that the buttons are then reset. And there may be other things. I think we're going to have to set points back to 0 wherever we have points. We already have points set to blank. We might have to put the variable back to 0 just to make sure that when we reset they aren't still adding up points. But let's see what we have so far. I'm going to save this, and I may have errors here, but because I'm kind of rushing through it a little bit. But let's see what happens. I'll refresh. I'll put in my name. There's Rich. That's working, and I'll hit rock. We got a stalemate. Try again. I'll hit rock again. Rock again. I just lost paper. Let me try scissors. Scissors cuts paper, I win that. Let me try paper. Paper covers rock, I won. Paper covers rock, Rich wins. So I just won 2. So we didn't actually run the function yet. So that actually works. Let's check out the reset. That resets these. It didn't reset these things yet. Disabled. Oh yeah, we want these. We didn't disable them because actually we didn't make our function work yet. We made a function, but we have a reset working. We didn't run this checkpoints function yet. All this stuff, we didn't do any of this. We made it, but we didn't actually run it yet. So we got to do that. So that's what I forgot there. And what we're going to do is just do it the same way we did the show random RPS. Is what we're going to do at the very end. I'll just do checkpoints right here. And I'm just going to run the function after everything here. After every time we hit a thing, it's going to have to check points. So let me just check points here and put a semicolon. So that's the last thing that it does, is after everything else it checks points. And I'll do it for all 3 of these. We'll check points, and we may have to put checkpoints before this so that the other two things run before it checks points. But I'll put it at the end, see how it works, and we'll check it out. So 3 checkpoints under show rock, show paper, and show scissors. The last thing it's going to do is run the checkpoints function, which is this. Which is what's going on here, which is really saying, you know, if the points is greater than 2, it's going to do all this stuff. So let's see what happens now. I'll go back, I'll reset. I'll put in my name. I'll submit. There, it's working. I'll hit rock. Rock just lost paper, so I'm down 1-0. I'll hit paper. stalemate, I'll hit scissors, stalemate, I'll hit paper, stalemate, I'll hit rock, rock gets covered, so I'm down 2-0, and I lost. And these things are grayed out, they're disabled, and it says computer wins 2 out of 3. I think that's okay, there's a space there. And that's it. And let's see what reset does. Reset blanks these out, reset blanks this out, and it puts human back here. Now it didn't wipe this stuff out yet, it still kept this here. So we have one other thing to do under reset, and that's just kind of wipe these things out, put their original non-breaking space in there. So that's the last thing we should have to do just under reset, because otherwise everything looks okay. If we refresh it, it'll go back to the way it is. But if you reset, it doesn't wipe out that stuff. So we'll just have to go under a reset and just add a couple things here. We have the disabled, but what we want to do is the disabled stuff are those 3 things. The winner, and they were the things we originally showed. That was this stuff, my points, all this kind of stuff here. I'm actually going to copy this, and I'll just put it down here under my reset. I'll put it the last thing under my reset, and then also find one that says winner, or just any one that says winner. I'll just copy it, and I'll put it here just because I like to keep them in order of winner, my points, comp points. So those 3 paragraphs, that we're going to reset these, and all that we're going to do in here is we're going to put them back to non-breaking spaces. So they're just going to be NBSP semicolon, and you would keep the semicolon in there. So I'll just copy that, and I'll paste that there and paste this here. So that should reset them all back to those paragraphs all back to nothing. Now it should also reset the point. If we have a problem with the points, if we play again and the points are adding up too high, then we'll know that we have to actually reset the points too. So you know, we could really just take our points, our my points, and just, now it's the variable. You know, we could just highlight these 2 things. That would take care of the problem before we even worry about it. We'll just do this here, and then it'll be taken care of. Now we don't have to put IDs or anything. We're just setting the variable back to 0, just making sure they're back to 0. And we don't need a var because they're already declared. So that would be the last thing we would do in there, and let's see how it works. I'll refresh, I'll put in my name, I'll submit it, I'll hit rock, stalemate, rock again, I got crushed by scissors. I'll try paper, paper covers rock. I just won. I forget how I won there. I thought I lost one of those, but I won. So it says Rich wins 2 out of 3, Rich 2, computer 0. I'll reset, and everything looks okay. Let me just play again to make sure it still works. It's not adding points or anything. I'll start with paper, rock, scissors. It's doing a lot of stalemates here. Paper covers rock, so I'm up. I'll try rock. Try rock again. Rock crushes scissors. Look, I just won 2 out of 3. So I'm pretty good at this game. So everything's working. We also got this set up. Now we didn't make it look really fantastic. We just have a white background, a lot of Times font. The only thing we did was we made that kind of a Calibri, but it's working. So there's a lot of other things we could do to it. As you work with it, there's other functionality you could change, but we got it working, and hopefully you get the basic idea of these if-else statements. A lot of JavaScript here. So, and you know, we could actually, and we might do this as another exercise, if we wanted to, we could copy or cut all of this JavaScript out of here and put it in a separate JavaScript file and just call it from our index. That way we'd have a much simpler index file, a much simpler JavaScript file, because they wouldn't be all together. But I thought it'd be easier so that you could just scroll up and see everything. You don't have to jump back and forth between files. So that's everything. So everything's kind of working here. A lot of stuff going on. You know, you're gonna have problems, you're gonna have errors and stuff like that, but hopefully take your time and watch the videos. Email me some code or something if you have a problem, and I'll try to give you some hints to try and work it out a little bit. But try to take your time and really kind of problem solve through this. Don't just copy code. Try to do what I did and just kind of go through the steps one at a time. And that's what I tried to do. Just see if I can work it out by doing images first and then worrying about the points last. And you got to be real careful about all the IDs, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things to keep track of here. So that's pretty much it. So once you're done, you can pretty much make sure everything's saved, your CSS, your index, and then you're going to zip up this file, and you can just either send it to me, you can upload it through coursework, and you're all done. So let me just make sure that everything here is saved. So you can always close out of your files. I don't need that. I don't know what that is. I think that's another one. And this is my index. I'll close that. So make sure everything's closed out. There's my random image array. Make sure everything's closed out. Go to your original file, zip it, and upload it in coursework, and then you should be good to go. So that's the end of EX12 Part 7, RPS, Rocks, Paper, Scissors.